Oh, look how sweet you are.
She is. She's a good grill. This is a very good grill.
Oh, okay. So, hello everybody. Here we are at our final Barb and Gabby campout of the season, at the 2017 season. And originally, this campout had been planned to be at Bumping Lake. Unfortunately, Bumping Lake has been evacuated due to fires, and that was not a problem because, well, we got a great spot in Greenwater. So we were going to go there, and then, well, we got fires in Greenwater, and they locked all that up. So then we found a great spot on the Hood Canal. We were going to go there. Well, then we found out the road was washed out. So kind of at a last minute thing, we found a place here. We are now in the Olympic rainforest right along the Hoh River. This is just an amazing spot. And I believe this was your suggestion?
My sister and me,
Oh,
yeah.
okay. Well, thank you very much. We love it here. Sandy and Kevin and Mitch and I arrived on Tuesday and picked our spots here, got us set up. It was dark. We'd had dinner. It was the four of us sitting here. And right over here at the very edge of camp, something heavy was thrown. I'm thinking it hit. There was a loud bang. We all stopped and, oh, okay, hello. When I got up the next morning, I went over there and looked on the ground and looking for a stick or a rock or something that could have made that sound, and there was no sign of anything that was over there, so we don't know what that was. Also that night, while we were all sitting here, the four of us, I had gotten up and was walking down the road here toward my camp, and I heard what sounded like a 1,000-pound dog yawn, kind of a moan, type of sound, except it was extremely large, and that was immediately followed by a few words from a human in that direction. And I mention that because the human words sounded so tiny and puny in comparison to the size of this moan that I had heard. And then when our campers arrived, Christina here had an experience in this spot just a couple of weeks ago.
2 weeks ago, we were coming back from CQ on a salmon fishing trip, and we typically fish till it gets near dark. So we'd gotten in our car and we were tired, so we said, we'll just pull in Cottonwood and we'll just get up at dark 30 and go home. So it was maybe 6 o'clock, 10 to 6. Me and my husband were out and we were putting stuff back in the motorhome to get out of here, and we just hear this like somebody waking up and doing a big stretch, and my husband, who's a total skeptic, he goes, what the French, but
Bloop.
and I said, what the heck was that? And I said, I don't know, honey, and I kind of smirked anyway. And then coincidentally you mentioned the same thing, so
Yeah, we heard exactly the same thing. I think I can bleep you.
sorry.
It's
Family
okay.
friendly.
But that's what came out of his mouth.
Okay, well, all right. Well, we want an accurate report. So, you were going to you? Okay,
Yeah.
so go ahead.
I arrived here around 11:30. I came down, seen you guys down there checking out the area. Well, I go up to Mitch's area 1. I park the bus, get everything ready like everybody usually does. Nothing new about that. I come down looking for you guys. You're not around here. I go back up to the bus, and my door's wide open. I make a point of closing that door. My bus is wide open, so I'm like, oh, shit. So I'm going in there expecting to sleep.
Bleep.
I don't feel so bad now.
Well,
Holy
so
shoot.
I'm looking to see what's missing. Nothing was disturbed, but I make it a point to keep that door closed, because we're right there at the front. People coming in, they say, open bus. Let's see what they have. Turn around and leave. So that was weird. And then during the night when we were doing our night sit out there by the river, we're all looking for night shine, listening for stuff. I seen a meteor coming down, and it was kind of a weird looking. It was like a grayish color, and there was no flames behind it, but it wasn't a shooting star. Those were real quick. This one was like clouds behind it, like making a trail. Then it just disappeared, and then we had that sonic boom. Everybody heard the sonic boom. And then the weird stuff that happened was that last night. I'm laying there in my bus, and I get this feel. I don't hear the bus door open, but I can feel somebody walking towards me in the bus. And just as they're about to, I could feel them touch me. They're just about, and I startle and I look over, nobody's there. And that happened to me twice. And then earlier this morning, I'm laying there in bed, and clear as day, almost as if it was inside the bus. I heard like those little xylophones where you can you hit just one note. Don't ask me the note because I don't know music, but I heard one note clear as day, and I'm thinking, oh well, maybe Mitch, being a musician, it was doing something, but he said he wasn't.
Wow.
So
What
yeah.
time was that again?
Early.
Oh my goodness, that was probably around 5-ish.
Wasn't your cell phone pinging or
No,
anything?
I shut my phone off at night. So, other than that, I had not a very good night's sleep. But yeah, that was kind of some weird stuff. Feeling someone walking in your bus and
Yeah.
no door opening up, and then there's nobody there when they're just about to touch you twice.
Wow, that's kind of spooky.
Yeah.
Can you lock your door?
What's that? I don't lock it. No, I can lock it when I leave, but I don't lock it while I'm in there. I got a key too, but
So was the door opened, or it was just somebody
at night when they were coming, where something was whatever, it was closed, but it was not locked, and it was never opened unless I opened it.
And you would hear it if it was
You
yeah.
can hear it.
Wow, okay.
So, it was weird.
I'm going to throw in, because I know we're going to lead up to some things that we're going to discuss with you. Right at sunset last night, I had gone out onto the river to take some pictures, and it was a beautiful sunset. And there was a log right there, and it had started to fade, so I was sharing my sunset pictures into our group chat. So I'm sitting there, and I'm looking down at the pod right on the river's edge. Swear to God, I heard Larry and Rob on the other side of the river doing their Sasquatch talk. It sounded just like you guys. So I'm sitting there, and I'm looking at the pod, and I'm listening to this, and I'm thinking, no way. And I listened for probably 30 seconds, and I finally lifted my head to look across the river, and the second that I did that, it stopped. So then I'm sitting there, and I'm going, okay, now, is this just the gurgling of the river? What the heck? And I'm listening to the gurgling, and the gurgling is there, it's obvious, but it didn't sound like what I was hearing, okay? So can't say for a fact what it was, but that's what I heard. So then we had a night sit last night where we were out on the river, and you had come back early. Why don't you take it from there?
Right. About 9:30 or so, Kevin brought Pat and I back early. We were both pretty tired. And he dropped us off right here, because my tent is over near Barb in the next space. And I had my chair, and I was bringing my chair back to put it in the circle here. And as I was coming over towards the meeting area, I could hear crystal clear and pretty loud what you hear like typical samurai chatter. And it only lasts about 5 seconds, but it was coming from this area back behind the tents.
Swamp.
From in the swamp area. And it was very clear. I was like, whoa. But then it just stopped. As clear as that. I didn't hear any other noise, just this chatter. And then for me, at night, somewhere, I typically go to sleep, listen to music on headphones, and I think it was probably based on what I was listening to at the time, the sequence music. I was like fading in and out between sleeping and listening to music. So I'd probably say something like around 1 o'clock in the morning. It sounded like I heard steps along the tent, because I had the music down pretty low, just enough to like fade off to sleep. I heard steps along the tent, and I heard what sounded like scraping along the side of the tent, like someone just walking along and putting their hand, and almost like claws, because it sounded like there was like four distinct strands running across the tent.
More of a scraping sound
More
than
of
a
like
rubbing
a scraping sound than like fingers rubbing. And I say that because I have cats, and when they like grab onto cloth, you could hear the sound of the actual claw going into the cloth. That's what it sounded like. Now I checked this morning on both sides of the tent. There's no marks at all, but that's what it sounded like going down the one side. And it was actually the side of the tent that's between you and I, because I was leaning. I was sleeping on my side, and it sounded like it was right in front of me.
Wow.
I did hear some steps early this morning. I woke up about 5:30 or so, and as I was waking up, there were some steps around the camp, but that could have been anything. It didn't sound.
I was walking around.
Oh, okay.
Too. Yeah.
So
I was up
Okay.
actually before it was even.
yeah, that's right. You said you were up around that time, so it could have been that. But this was the first the motion. That was probably like 1 o'clock in the morning, around there.
Wow, okay. Something happened to you out on the riverbed. Why don't you share that with us?
Actually, me and him he was kind of playing with his GPS, so
Yeah.
we got separated, but we walked out there together, and he said, well, I'm going to go back. So I said, well, I'm just going to hang out a little bit longer. So I went all the way to the point. I was actually looking for salmon because I'm a fisherman, but the river shallows up over here and it splits, and there's a big sand island in the middle. Well, it gets very narrow there, and the woods across the river, the riverbank's been cut, but the tree line, it's very wide open. Well, next to me there's a big pile of slash from flooding on the river, and I see a big piece of old growth bark from a spruce tree, about that big, but that thick, just rolled right off the top of this big slash and landed right by my feet. And I thought, you threw something at me. So I'm looking around, and you had that coat on, or you had something that was. So I was looking for color, and I didn't see you. Nobody was there, and I just wrote it off as maybe it's just a figment of my imagination. I don't know, because I couldn't figure out where it would have came from, because the distance between that woods where I thought it came from was a good 60 yards. To throw a piece of bark like that 60 yards and have it roll like that, you'd have to have a hell of an arm.
Yeah,
So-
and there was really no breeze or anything yesterday. It was very still, very nice. So, you know, it didn't like blow from anywhere.
No, and it frightened me. It freaked my chihuahua out. She kind of had her ear dar up. And she was looking across the river right where I thought it might have come from. And she kind of let out a little low bark, and then she just came over to me and didn't want any more part of that. But it was weird.
Wow. Okay. All right. So as far as throwing things, last night we had our night sit. And when we got back, you know, we're putting our food and stuff in the cars, and I had taken a cooler over to my car, and before I walked away, I opened it up and checked, and it was getting warm in there. So I brought it back over here, and I'm so glad you helped, and we're up for it because you were so exhausted. You were kind of like a zombie. Kevin handled it like a pro. We rearranged some blocks of ice and got everything into where it was going to be cold, and you were so far gone, Sandy.
I had checked out already.
You had.
A long time ago.
So basically what happened, and I'll add that when I heard the chatter or the sound of those guys talking, it was just out beyond these trees across the river. And when David heard it, it was just in this area right here. What happened to me last night, we had just finished putting stuff in the back of Sandy's car here, and we're both standing just right here, like right there together. And I have my headlamp in my hand, shined at the ground. Sandy takes a step and walks this way, and the ground right beside me, you can see the leaves, this pine cone skids across through the leaves like this, through the leaves from the direction of back there. So whatever threw it horizontally and with enough force that yeah, that was my chair. Uh-oh. So anyway, it literally skid through the leaves, and I'm kind of stood there, and my jaw kind of dropped a little bit, and I'm like, Sandy, and she's like, huh? And I'm like, this cone, it just skid through the leaves where you were standing. She's like, oh.
So tired.
Yeah, so it's like, okay, well, so I actually set it aside over here so that I could show her this morning, and hopefully she'd find some joy when she was awake. So here we go. This obviously is a old dead little cone, and yeah, the leaves right here behind her car, it just kind of skimmed right through them and came to a stop right where you had been standing a half a second before.
And there are no
I
cones
do
here
recall
either.
the leaves moving
No
through there,
cones
but I
maybe.
don't. Until you picked up the pine cone because you had seen it land, but I thought it was just a scuffling, but it wasn't.
No, I
So,
actually, because it was right there in the beam of my headlight, and I'm like,
It was-
oh my gosh! And your reaction was so minimal.
I only had one thing on my mind, and that was my pillow.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm glad you enjoy the story today. Now that you're rested. Okay. So
That had to have some force behind it.
it
skid through these
did.
rocks, yeah.
Well, no, it wasn't the rocks. It was the leaves.
the
It
leaves.
was
But
the
there are
leaves.
no other cones over there, so
Yeah.
it's not like it
There's no-
fell from above.
There's no
Yeah.
cones on the trees doing a
Yeah, and we have not had anything falling. No, it's definitely an old dead one that's probably been stepped on. It's somewhat mashed, and yeah, it was literally pitched from the
I think
from the
that
bushes
just-
back here.
That just goes to show if they wanted to hit you, they would hit you.
Oh yeah, and how accurately they can throw it, because it literally landed where your
Where
feet
it's
had been
standing.
a second before, right in the beam of my flashlight.
Yeah.
So
I wanted you to see that. But they had no intention of hurting me.
Oh, and then
Yeah.
seeing that big piece of bark rolling across the
Right.
top of that slash, and then just
Right.
rolling right
You know,
I mean, I couldn't have been thrown like that. There's
Right.
no way. And
I
I played ball, you know.
I think the Mariners could probably use that right now.
Pitching.
Pretty good pitching.
I
there.
sometimes wonder if they do some of this to see if you're aware that it just didn't fall from the tree. To see if
Yeah.
you're aware that they're here. Just okay. What level of awareness do these people have?
Yeah. Are they going to notice this? Are they going to
Right,
say
so
something?
maybe
Or are they
they'll
going to
be
go,
able
huh, and
to-
walk away?
Right.
Yeah. All right, cool. Okay, anybody else? Got anything to
You
share?
didn't feel scared though. I was spooked. You didn't feel scared.
No, I was
No.
tickled.
That's what was so weird when I heard the vocal. I mean, it was very clear and sounded very close. And it's like, oh, someone's right here. And then I still was like, I wasn't afraid at all. And I had to go to the bathroom, and the toilet's right over, the vault's right over here. And I just went over to the bathroom, and it was kind of strange. I didn't really feel frightened by anything. It just,
Huh?
I'm still in the
Okay.
area, and I just.
Just Teresa.
Oh, we have another camper arriving. Okay, Peter, I saw your hand go up. What would you like to share?
Yeah, so I last night I was sitting in my campsite, the north campsite, near where Mitch and Rob are, and also Pat and Tristan and Penny. And I was just sitting there by my tent, and I heard some kind of howl from off in the distance in the direction of the main road. So it could have been from the main road. I can't swear, but it sounded like just a vocal tone, like just like that.
Wow.
One other thing, I last night around, I don't know if it was later or earlier, I was sitting there and I heard a knock from across the camp road up in the direction of sort of where you had your gifting site, just before a vehicle came down the road.
Okay.
It was like really, really close before the vehicle came down the road.
I did hear a couple of knocks. One might have been a rock clack. It was kind of a high-pitched sound last night, probably between midnight and 1. They weren't, it would just be a single sound, very loud. Some were close, some were more distant. I did hear some howls, most likely coyotes, and just within minutes of those starting, there was a vehicle came through, and it stopped at that point. That may have been you arriving, Nancy. So
That was after midnight.
that would have been after midnight. Okay, so yeah, that's about all I heard out there.
We have
A
a
couple other
9-year-old autistic child that's very disabled, that's been making a lot of really strange noises. And I asked her mother yesterday because she was howling like a Bigfoot, and
Yeah.
she says, "Well, she mimics things that she hears in the woods." And I'm
Really?
thinking, "Oh, that's interesting."
Yeah.
And then I played the flute for a good hour after you folks went off to the bank because I was trying to see if I could get him. And I did get, she was mimicking me, and then I got some kind of like a tremolo or a trill in the woods right over here.
Wow.
But just one like a little blip, and that was it.
Wow.
But it sounded like it was trying to mimic my flute. But
Okay.
So
We did hear the girl mimicking
girl.
you.
yeah.
And the first night we were here, we were sitting here, and we could hear Bigfoot type sounds coming from that camp over there, and
Crazy how good she was.
yeah, we were thinking, oh my gosh, there's other Bigfooters here.
Yeah.
And so it's
Yelps,
it's very
just
interesting to
perfect yelps
discover
and-
that it not only are they not Bigfooters, the sounds were coming from this autistic girl who mimics what she hears in the woods. So obviously she has heard something that she's mimicking that sounds like a Sasquatch. So that in itself is just
And
totally cool.
Actually heard her before they left. I heard her trying to mimic the caw of that raven, and it was kind of cute because she wasn't even close, but it was cute.
It was. Well, I heard when you were playing your flute, you would do a series of notes, and then from their camp, you'd hear her whistle the same series of notes. She's very good at
Yeah,
it.
she was really good. The little boy
Rain girl.
wasn't near as good as her. She was better than him.
Like Rain Girl.
All right, cool. Okay, so anybody else?
Yeah, there's some howls that we heard yesterday after we found the hawk.
Okay.
You had left already. I think it was you, Mitch, and Kevin and I. There were howls that came from down the river. There were 4 of them, and they were very distinct. They were distant, but they were 4 very good howls.
And not cows, right?
No,
'Cause
the not
I
cows.
was hearing
They were not
cows too, and I'm like,
They
you
were
know.
classic howls.
Wow.
And then last night, Tristan was doing his owl calls, and again down that same river, down that way, there was some sort of a howl or an owlish call that came back.
A response.
You heard it. I heard it.
And that
I
was
can't remember if anybody else
moments
heard it.
before the sonic boom.
Right.
Yeah.
It all
It
kind
was,
of happened.
we were hearing it, and I was going shh, 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 as Rob is saying, "Oh my gosh," because he's seeing this thing, and so you hear the howls, and then just a moment of silence, and then boom, the sonic boom hit.
Wow. All right, cool. And apparently the Ravens have something they'd like to share.
Okay, we have one more thing
That's your
too.
thing. That's your
Okay.
So yesterday Peter had come in to camp, and I was walking him around showing where he could possibly camp. And he decided up on Camp 1, which is beautiful. We're coming back down the road, walking together, and we're talking, and I'm busy reading the same sign I've seen all weekend, but I'm reading it anyway. It says fire band, and then Peter says, "Oh, hey, I think I just," and what did
I
you
think
see?
I just saw something flash into the bushes from down the road towards the boat launch.
Wow.
Gray, not too tall, could have been stooped over, but maybe 5 feet tall,
Juvenile.
possibly.
With all
Okay.
the stuff getting thrown around here, maybe it is.
Yeah.
And I didn't see it cross the road, but because I just looked up and saw it disappear into the bushes.
Wow. So it was moving fast.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Cool.
So that was pretty cool.
Right on. So they're
Yeah.
right there. We've got a possible visual.
Possibly.
Right on. Very
Yeah,
cool.
so that was cool.
It's been
Thanks for
so
reminding
cool
me.
since we got here. Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's nice to have this group together discussing these things because it's so easy to forget the little
It is.
things that happen. And talking about it as a group helps everybody remember what it is they want to share. Oh, we got Tristan. What would you like to
Should we
share?
talk about the light that we saw?
Oh, yes, that's right. Okay, go ahead. Share that.
I'm not saying this is Bigfoot related, but when we were sitting by the river, after he did some calls, actually, I'll just say after I did one of my calls, across the river from the trees, we saw this big, bright beam. Like, I guess a beam, would you say? But
Yeah,
huge glow.
yeah.
Big
It was
glow
a
of
glow.
light. It's
Yeah.
kind of like what you saw in
Big
Fire
glow.
in the Sky, in the movie Fire in the Sky, when they saw the UFO.
Yeah, it was
The beam out of the
very,
trees.
very bright.
It's pretty bright, and I know there's a highway over there, and we heard some cars from the highway over there, but and when you
Not
came down
at
with
the
the
same
truck,
time, though.
Yeah.
with the low beams, it was not definitely was not as illuminated as what we
Right.
saw across the
Yeah.
way.
Oh, yeah. It was
Plus,
when you
someone
were taking your
Would
truck
have had
back
been
and forth.
parked there because
Right.
We
it
could
was there
obviously tell that it
stationary
was a
quite well.
truck
Yeah, it
that was moving. It was a moving vehicle. Your headlights were bouncing off of things. There were two of them. It was very clear that even though we couldn't see your truck directly as you were moving back and forth through the forest coming and going, we knew it was a truck. And we also could hear your engine.
Yeah.
The light that we saw across the river appeared to be one beam. It didn't move. It was intensely bright, and then it just kind of faded away.
Yes, baby.
And there was no sound
Didn't fall
associated
at
with it.
all.
We could hear vehicles from the highway, but they seemed to be farther upriver. And they weren't associated with the light at all.
We were talking about the possibility of headlamps, but the light was steady; it didn't move.
Right.
Yeah.
The glow was
Yeah.
We
steady;
would
it
have
didn't
someone
move.
like parking there, and then
And it
But-
went up.
And
It
went
went
up.
straight up.
And it
Yeah.
would glow
It
kinda-
wasn't somebody's spotlighting game, was it?
It
It
didn't
didn't
move.
It didn't
It
move.
was it.
Well, they weren't spotlighting something on a hill looking for.
No, it
was
just
no
like went
hill, it
straight
was
up from
pretty
behind the
flat.
And then
trees.
it just went dim
On top
and
of the hill.
slowly,
Yeah.
slowly
all over the course
snuffed
of
out.
30 seconds.
Yeah.
There was
Yeah.
no on-off
Like it
switch
went
or anything.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it was brilliant. I'm the
it
one
was
that
just
pointed
there,
it out.
and then it
was
just
right
slowly
after
went back
I
down
said,
again.
I
It
want
probably
to
took
see a squad.
10 to
Yeah,
15
that's
And then I
seconds
go,
right
hey,
for it.
look.
Oh, okay.
It probably took 10 to 15 seconds from when it went at its brightest to when it went completely black. It took that long to
But
fade.
it happened a second time. It happened twice.
Happened twice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't. It wasn't as bright the second time though.
And where
Yeah.
was this again?
Just across the
on
river.
ninth floor.
Yeah.
Beyond the trees, above the tree line. You saw it above the tree line, but it was
Yeah.
coming from the other side of the trees.
Yeah. All right. Cool. So, anybody else? No, we're all good. All right. Well, we're gonna have another amazing day. We're gonna have another amazing night. I can hardly wait to see what's gonna happen next. Woohoo! Thanks, everybody.